Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Are you getting old? Do you feel old? Old is when your wife says, "Let's go upstairs and make whoopee." And you answer, "Pick one, dear, I can't do both." Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a Patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning on a Tuesday. And a good morning to you and yours. Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations, with a great big fall tire sale going on, along with some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call them at 734-6969. Right now, without any other objections, we're going to go to the phone line and have our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Good morning. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Miss Lorna Doone. God bless you and have a great day. Thank you so much.
And God bless you, too, and you have a great day.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Lorna. Wonderful, wonderful lady right there. Hey, we've got to get right to the weather forecast brought to you by Hello Roger and the whole crew over at K&R Rental. You know, they get there early in the morning at 7 o'clock. And, man, people are coming in. They need this tool. They need this kind of equipment. They need forklifts. They need everything. Hey, they've got everything. And all the tools and equipment you need right there at K&R Rental. 256 South, 300 west of Hayburn, and the number to call, 678-3122. Really good folks that know exactly what you need, and they've got it. K&R Rental. Here's the weather.
We're going to be warm for the next couple of days. I am not complaining about that. However, there is one day this week we're not going to like. Here's your weather for Zeb at the Ranch. Looking at sunny skies for today. High of 71. Tonight, clear skies, low of 39. Tomorrow, sunny and 71 with an overnight low of 40. Pretty much the same for Thursday. Sunny and 74 with an overnight low of 42 under partly cloudy skies. However, Friday going to be the game changer. Looks like 40% chance of rain showers are in the forecast. Winds are going to be picking up, high of 53. And then for Saturday, partly to mostly sunny skies, high of 54. That's your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
All right, Gina, thank you so much. Ooh, Friday sounds like a kind of a odd man out. K&R Rental, 256 South, 300 west of Hayburn. They're open Monday through Friday, starting at 7 o'clock in the morning to serve you. And you know, they've been in business since 1979, and they've got all the experience and the knowledge, but above all, the right tools and equipment to get the job done for you at K&R Rental. Number to call, 678-3122. Oh, good morning. Let's take care of some business here real quick. Yesterday we missed the birthday, and it's my fault. I had the note covered up. And Gloria Struken, if you're listening this morning, happy birthday to you yesterday. And today, Wanda Sievers in Kimberly is having a birthday. Oh, she makes delicious homemade bread, too. Wanda Sievers in Kimberly. I don't know why Gerald doesn't weigh 500 pounds. Anyway, those are a couple of the birthdays, and we also want to say, I know he's up. I know he's probably out there working on the stagecoach. Ray Bagby, good morning to you. Hope you have a great, great day. Don't forget, Thursday is sale day at the Burley Livestock Sale Yard, 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley. Number to call for cattle consignments and sale information, 678-9411. The sale that works for you with Merv May, Cade Rogge. Cade just won that great big auctioneering championship. Lance Udy and the whole crew. The sale that works for you starting at 10 o'clock on Thursday morning. Burley Livestock Sale Yard. Don't you miss it. Want a quick reminder that we are going to have Lunch Bunch this Thursday, day after tomorrow. I had a call yesterday, and the lady said, "When's Lunch Bunch?" And I said, it's going to be this Thursday at, of course, Denny's Restaurant at 611 North Overland in Burley. I urge you to be in attendance. Bring a friend, bring a neighbor, grab a stranger off the street. Come on in. We got a lot of door prizes. We always have a lot of fun and great, great food at Denny's Restaurant. I urge you to come on down to America's Diner at 611 North Overland in Burley. Delicious. And they also have another great restaurant at 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner with Zeb's Lunch Bunch coming up this Thursday. Okay, at 11:30. We got a lot of things to talk about here this morning, and I don't understand, and maybe some of you can help me. I have tried to pick up on all the news and read all the news and understand what's going on with Las Vegas and the shooting with Stephen Paddock, the absolutely devastating shooter, killing 58 people, and then, of course, taking his own life, etc. But there's a lot of questions going on, and I've listened to some of the national shows, and some of the questions that are being asked are honest questions. The timelines of what happened have been altered and changed. The whys and ifs have changed, and a couple of things that really bother me a little bit. Number one, they still don't have a motive for the why that this had to take place. And there's always a clue. There's always something. There's always a note. There's always some reference. There's always somebody that has something that they can shed light on as to a potential motive. But there's another unanswered question that was hit last night, and it left me scratching my head, is the security guard. His last name is Campos. He was the guy that evidently, according to the reports, interrupted the mindset and the progress of what Paddock was trying to do, and by going up onto the floor and with all the cameras that Paddock had, he noticed the security guard shot through the door, they estimated about 200 times, and fragment from the bullet or the bullet itself had wounded Mr. Campos, the security guard for the Mandalay Bay. But here's the caveat. Nobody has seen this security guard, Mr. Campos, for over a week. And it was stated that he had gone to receive some emergency assistance at like a quick medical location. You know, you walk in, I got a cut, help me. And there's no reports of that. Nobody seems to know where he is now. Now, whether the Mandalay Bay and the corporation that owns it are sheltering him, hiding him, giving him a leave of absence until the investigation is all finished and completed, I don't know. But, you know, it's a worthy question from anybody in journalism. Where is this guy? And can he tell us more? And nobody seems to know or wants to tell where he is. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. There you are. You're up hunting, and it's time to go to bed. And you untie that sleeping bag and roll it out on your cot and open it up, and you forgot to have have it clean from last year. There's some of the dried, caked-on salsa and the Cheetos and the potato chips and part of whatever you ate a year ago up there in the hills. I mean, holy smokes, you forgot to get your sleeping bag cleaned. You better take it into Daryl's Cleaners at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Kevin can take care of it and make it so that when you crawl in there, you're going to be comfy and it ain't going to stink. Okay. Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. You stop in and see them today. Caller, I'll be right there. Also want to remind you about our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric. Oh, my. Yes, sirree. The colder days are coming, and be ready to have your furnace work efficiently with all the nice, clean air filters. And they've got all those air filters, all your heating and electrical needs, and, of course, they're open from 7:30 in the morning till 5, Monday through Friday. Really good people. They know everything about heating and electrical at Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, 678-0459. Good morning, caller. Go ahead.
Good morning, sir.
Hey, Buckwheat, how you doing?
Oh, beautiful morning. Oh, just gorgeous.
Oh, okay.
Made a great day for us.
Today and tomorrow I am excited about, and Thursday I'm just all jumping up and down, but Friday I'm going to barrel in, I think.
I think so, too. In fact, I might close tomorrow and Thursday and then open Saturday and Sunday because it'd be miserable. I can go do something tomorrow and Thursday.
There you go, buddy. What can I do for you this morning?
Well, I've thought about this, and I've talked to a few other people about it. There are more cameras in Las Vegas. They're every hotel or in the hallways and the casinos, outside the casinos, on the streets. And there hasn't been one mention of any video of the shooter doing anything suspicious or the security guard. There's no video of the security guard when he got shot at through the door. I mean, there is so many questions.
Yeah.
And no answers. I don't... 2 weeks investigation and they can't come up with a motive or a constant timeline?
You know, what you just said a moment ago is oh so true, because I've had an opportunity, I'm not going to say where or when, but I've seen the intricate workings of the cameras inside those casinos. And if anybody wanted to yell, scream, and holler about their privacy being invaded, I guess that's a good option right there, because they can tell the card that you turn over playing 21. They can see all the hand movements. They follow people throughout the entire network of the casino. You know, I'm not buying into this that, A, they don't know a lot about what took place on the 32nd floor, B, they don't know what happened to Campos, and C, what the motive is and or was. Why, though, Doug? I don't understand why this is sheltered information.
That's the million-dollar question right there. Why is it so secret on what they're finding or if they're finding anything? Or my question is, are people being told to stand down and shut up?
I would hope not. I would hope not. Okay, let's look at it from the attitude of maybe the management and the corporation that owns Mandalay Bay. Maybe they're feeling that we're going to keep a tight lip with duct tape over those lips until the investigation is A1 complete and all the facts are known, and then come out with the finalization of the story. I'm not buying that.
Me either. I mean, especially if Mandalay Bay, wants to keep their reputation as a decent organization.
Yeah.
They need to come out, step out in front and say, we're offering all this stuff to the police. They have it all. Here's our statement. They have everything so that they can go through it.
Well, you know, they were wrong on what they presented to the news media about the time frame of when security guard Campos was shot. And then it was completely flip-flopped to where Campos was shot supposedly at the beginning of this barrage, not at the end. And where's Campos? I mean, he's got relatives, I'm sure. He's got friends in the area. He's got associates that worked with him. Where is the guy?
Exactly. And I'm sure he lived in the area.
Yeah. I mean...
So it's quite a...
Bizarre.
It's very.
And...
Bizarre. And, you know, one can't help but come in with some conspiracy theories and think that somebody's hushing this thing up.
You know, I watched the interchange with Geraldo Rivera, which I cannot stand to see more than a small soundbite of Geraldo. I don't like the guy. And Tucker Carlson last night. And normally, Geraldo's always on the side of, oh, there's a conspiracy here. But yesterday, he tried to put white paint on the whole subject and whitewash it. And I just really think that an investigative reporter has every right, if he's working for a newspaper, a television station, a radio station, whatever the case might be, they have every right to ask these questions and do follow-up as to the time frames and the motive and why this Paddock's house was broken into when police should have had that thing secured and guarded for more information and more evidence, and where's Campos? I mean, there's about 4 or 5 questions right there that I darn sure would like to know myself.
Exactly. That's exactly it. There's more questions than answers, and when that happens, that brings out the people that will use their imagination and figure things, or try to figure things out and come up with some bizarre twists and turns.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I got to pay some
digital footprint.
Now, I got to pay some bills here. I'm running a little bit late, but Doug, you're like me. I mean, I'm not trying to say there's a conspiracy theory. I never even mentioned that. But what I am saying is that in most stories, in most investigative reports, after 2 to 3, almost 3 weeks, one would tend to think that the information is still sketchy at best.
Exactly. Hey, can I announce a dinner at the Senior Centers in Rupert?
Really fast. I've only got about 15 seconds here. Go.
Okay. They're having stuffed bell peppers today for lunch.
Okay.
If anybody likes stuffed bell peppers, they are excellent.
Okay. Got you covered, and thank you very much. Thank you.
God bless.
Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Want to talk about immigration. And Frosty Woldridge was right 100% spot on over 2 years ago when he mentioned the numbers and the figures. And now last night, the numbers matched up exactly with what he's been telling us for years. Stand by about that. Don't forget Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. The number to call, and you better remember this, 678-1191. 678-1191. Remember that number and call it because they can help you get back to being you. Oh, the kids, they got hurt maybe at a soccer game or a football game, or maybe they were chasing around and they fell down, and maybe you're recovering from surgery or a sprain. You fell off the ladder, huh, Bunky? Well, all of this and more, you call them and they can help you with the best of physical therapists. All the exercises and the hydrotherapy pool. They can help you get back to being you. 678-1191. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. You call them today. Wonderful, wonderful people. Oh, and under the heading of wonderful, wonderful people, I want you to remember about Pomerell Place, a place for senior living at 1301 Bennett Street in Burley. The number to call, 677-8212. Holly sent us some information, and Pomerell is hosting a VA benefits seminar. It's going to be on October 26th at 5:30 p.m. The first note I had said 25th, and it is corrected now. now. Benefit seminar for the VA, October 26th at 5:30 p.m. Public is welcome. Georgia Greenwell, the local Mini-Cassia Veteran Service Rep, will be speaking on how to apply for VA benefits, and she would like to have all RSVP for this meeting by October 23rd. The number to call, 677-8212 at Pomerell Place, a place for senior living. There you go. All right, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Oh, quickly, Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox Home Comfort Systems teamed up to make you comfy when it gets cold and nasty and windy and chilly and snowy. Well, they've got the best of home comfort systems. All you need to do is check out how you may get up to a $1,600 rebate on a new Lennox home comfort system. Call Ramsey Heating and Electric today at 678-0459. Thank you. Oh, boy. Frosty Woolridge has been on my program for many, many years. I think almost over 10 years. And he's been spot on with the books that he's written and his blogs about illegal immigration and immigration in general. And he has told us time after time that the way this thing is going, not even really counting illegal immigration coming into this country, but also legal immigration, we're going to be looking at 100 million immigrants coming to this country in the next 30, 40, 50 years. We don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the food, we don't have the water, and we don't have the jobs. That sounds like a real problem to me. And last night they had the same facts and figures by people that are studying this all of a sudden. Gee, I wonder how come it took so long. And it was amazing to me. They laid it all out, and Frosty was spot on. And he didn't have access to all the great computer information that our government had and has had on this information for a long time. And here we have people coming into this country that have no jobs, and many of which have absolutely no education whatsoever, into a completely strange culture. And I was absolutely rocked back on my Wrangler jean pockets when Democrat Juan Williams said, "This is great." What? Yeah, he said, "Oh, look at all the contributions they're going to make to our economy." And I'm so glad that a lot of times Tucker Carlson misses some points of arbitration that he needs to pick up on. But he picked up on this. He said, "What do you mean this is great? These people are coming in here. They're going to be on the taxpayer dole, many of which will never get jobs, many of which will never be contributing to our society, many of which are going to be just there with their hands out. How can that be great?" And besides all that, with their cultures coming in and not assimilating to our culture, we've got a complete fragmentation of America. Oh, the lovers in Twin Falls will absolutely hate that comment, because it seems like they really want to push for more coming into this area. And I, and many others, are going to push for a less. Financially and for security reasons. We need to know who's coming in, what they're going to do, and how they hope to attain any achievement and success. We don't need a whole bunch of people coming in here and then sitting back and we're doing all the feeding. Caller, I'm going to be right with you. Don't go away. I know a business that absolutely does a job that you and we don't want to do. No, we don't want to do. I know Dino's Septic Service in Rupert. Septic tanks pumped. They came over and saved our bacon here a while ago. Septic tanks and drain fields installed, and septic inspections, and water and sewer lines installed. I'm telling you, these people are fast, fair, and they offer very friendly service. I can attest to that. Call them today, 436-6526 in Rupert, and in Burley, 678-1638. Dino Dino's Septic Service. And I'll tell you what, they got that great big truck that says on the side, "Smells Cargo," on the way to help you from Dino's Septic Service. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning. It's interesting that you mentioned that your guy, all he needed was the ability to reason and logic to have the same statistics that the computers do. So, not a surprise to me. What's the surprise is that there's not more people capable of it.
Well, what surprises me, sir, and I appreciate your analogy there, but my surprise is why more people don't want to be aware of the honest truth of what's happening.
Okay, that brings me to my next point, which is exactly those people in Twin Falls that are all for this immigration. They're on the tit just the same as the people that they're immigrating in here.
Well, I do not understand some of the thinking that's going on in a very left-leaning Twin Falls area with the city council, the mayor, and others, to where, and I'm not saying that they're coming out and absolutely denigrating people that have a difference of opinion, but let's just say they shade them into a corner and basically forget about them. They think that anybody with a conservative viewpoint and anybody that's really questioning what's going on with the refugee program and immigrants coming into this country, that they're bigoted and hate mongers. And I am not, but I'm just being very sincere that when you look at the problems we have today with infrastructure, food, water, education, jobs, hey man, where's all that money going to come from?
Well, it's interesting. Every Democrat that I've ever talked to has no consideration for national debt. And they just think that money doesn't matter. It's doesn't matter. We don't ever have to make that money appear. And then people that I accused of being on the tip that are bringing these people in aren't like you, a good businessman working hard to promote your own business and other business interests and helping small business owners, helping the senior centers, helping the people. They're not out to help. They're out to take.
And I got to tell you something. You just touched on a real nerve, a raw nerve with me. We had filed for extension on our taxes, and I sat down with my accountant, and we had a long discussion about this. I honestly feel as an American citizen that we are all to be able to and should want to pay our fair share to keep this country the great country that it is. But you got to admit, I know I'm feeling this until maybe you can change my mind. I'm getting more than bitter knowing that a lot of my money on taxes is going to further somebody else basically to get a free ride, sit at home, watch TV and a lazy boy, eat bonbons, and just say, work? I don't have to. I get a free trip from the government.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I'm beyond bitter, and you and I have a lot of similar views with Zeb, and that's why I appreciate being able to tune into your show and have you help continue to inform us.
I appreciate it, sir. God bless you, and have a wonderful day up until Friday when it's going to get a little gnarly out there. Okay.
Yeah, back at you. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Nice guy right there. Thank you very much. Did you hear, I got to say this before I do the next commercial break, that there's a bunch of these left-wing loons, these nutcases, that are going around the country and they're putting articles in newspapers and letters to the editor, and they're calling into conservative shows like mine, and they're spreading the word that these left-wing loons, will not let us thrive or live in this country anymore with our conservative, hate-filled rhetoric and attitude. And they have made death threats. This is beyond the pale. They've made death threats to conservatives, white conservative males, and they want total control. They want total control, and they don't want a United States where anyone lives here and thinks differently than they do. And they're going to act as the so-called cleansing agent. Holy cow. Caller, I'll be right with you, I promise. Stand by. Don't forget Barry Equipment and Rental, sales, service, and parts. 3 locations serving you. South Lincoln and Jerome, Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Hello, Juan, the old football coach over there in Burley with all the Bobcats. They got all the Bobcats, new and used excavators for sale or rent. And I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people that want to get a lot of work done this fall, and they're going in there and checking out all the equipment. They have all the equipment to get the job done right. Equipment rentals, retail equipment sales, Barry Equipment and Rental. Jerome, Twin Falls, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Caller, thank you. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. You know, I woke up this morning and it looked like it was going to be a nice day, and I was happy. And then you brought up about this Twin Falls immigration thing. And I'll tell you what, it just makes me want to grab somebody and just shake the daylights out of them. Because they come to this country, our country, and they get paid more money than I get from my Social Security. Now, what is wrong with that picture?
Well,
I don't understand it at all.
It's a pretty rosy little situation about their food and their housing and their transportation and their kids going to school. And, I mean, the list goes on. And I heard one of the hierarchy, if you will, of that area say, well, that's all based on grant money. Well, where in the world do you think the grant money comes from, my dear friend?
You know, let's go back to the days when we were growing up, Zeb, and we wanted to have more than our fathers did and mothers, and we were able to buy a house and buy a car and everything else. Our standard was above what our parents were.
Yeah.
And sometimes our parents would say, hey, slow down, because you're going to have to pay for all this. And I learned the hard way, and I'm sure you did too, that nothing is really free.
No. But there is an exception. There is an exception to that last statement. And the statement is that if you come here illegally, or if you come here as a refugee, you can rest assured the way things are now, especially like in states of California, sanctuary cities like Chicago and back in Massachusetts, New York, etc., you can darn sure bet there's going to be your hand out and something's going to fill your hand to make sure that you get a free ride. And this has got to stop.
And you know one thing? I have never, ever drawn a dime's worth of work now. I mean, not workman's comp, but unemployment in my whole life. And I've always paid my taxes. I've always done everything right. But I'm not going to be treated half as good as the people they're bringing in here.
You know, and if all of us would get a hold of our representatives like Crapo and Risch and Simpson, and just let them know, hey, boys, enough is enough, and we want to see some net results about how you're fighting and working for us, and let's sit down and have a real good conversation about the values and the economic costs of all these people coming in versus us, the taxpayers that have lived here 40, 50, 60, 70 years. I want to have a breakdown, and we want to discuss this. Then we want to do things for us, not for others.
You know what really, really makes me angry, though, is I'm a veteran, and I can't get my veteran benefits.
Yeah.
They say I don't exist. And I finally went to Senator Crapo, met with him personally, and his office is trying to get it for me now. But these people that work for they're the scum of the earth as far as I'm concerned, because they don't care about those who protected our country.
Well, Keith, I know that you've got a personal story on this, and there's many stories about that, and appreciate your call as always. You're very straightforward. Thank you for your call this morning.
You bet.
All right, thank you. Don't forget Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox, as we've been telling you about for a long, long time, and you could possibly receive up to $1,600 in rebates on I bit my tongue. You ever do that? Woo! Let me start over again after the pain subsides. Rebates. There. It feels better. You could qualify for maybe up to $1,600 in rebates on a qualifying Lennox system. All you have to do is call Ramsey Heating and Electric today at 678-0459. Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox, saving you money. Oh, the pain, the pain. Did you hear Hillary? Why? I want somebody to call me and give me an answer on this. Why, and I mentioned this exactly 3 weeks ago on another program, why every single day, every day, there is a new soundbite from Hillary Clinton. I mean, come on. Can you name me, let's go back maybe 4 or 5 presidential elections. Can you name me any of the losers that really stayed in the news day after day after the election? We're talking almost a full year from the election, and this absolutely, I got to be really careful here, because I'd like to say in cowboy terminology what I think of her, but this loser, Hillary Clinton, stays in the news every day with a new soundbite, and it keeps her fire stoked for some reason. I've never seen this before in my lifetime. She gets as much or more press attention and press stories as if somebody has placed her back in the race for 2020, and they've got to keep the fire and the smoke coming up high for Hillary Clinton. Who really cares about her thoughts and her ambitions? Because Hillary Clinton is a loser. She lost the election. And then there's a big story. You just heard it a little bit ago. Hillary Clinton broke her toe. Oh, yeah, how did she break her toe? Well, the reports say she was running to get into a meeting carrying a cup of coffee, and her high heel caught in the grate on the floor, propelling her forward and breaking her toe. Now, all of this, the coffee being spilled, the broken toe, I'm sure the shoe was damaged, all of this will stay in the news for probably weeks to come to give Hillary her just desserts of staying newsworthy. Ay, ay, ay. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'd like to have a call from a lady that maybe she could shed some light on Hillary Clinton, and from a female perspective, what she thinks about Hillary staying in the news, broken toe and all. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Let's hear what the weather is going to do. And the weather brought to you by Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And they're located right across from the Minidoka Hospital Emergency Room. And the number to call Dr. Christine Pickup for a hearing screening is 312-0957. Let me repeat, 312-0957. They are the best, and believe me, she knows all about sound, all about hearing, all about how to help you with your hearing. So please call her today, 312-0957. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
We're going to be warm for the next couple of days. I am not complaining about that. However, there is one day this week we're not going to like. Here's your weather for Zeb at the Ranch. Looking at sunny skies for today. High of 71. Tonight, clear skies, low of 39. Tomorrow, sunny and 71 with an overnight low of 40. Pretty much the same for Thursday. Sunny and 74 with an Overnight low of 42 under partly cloudy skies. However, Friday going to be the game changer. Looks like 40% chance of rain showers are in the forecast. Winds are going to be picking up, high of 53. And then for Saturday, partly to mostly sunny skies, high of 54. That's your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you, Gina, and brought to you by Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Wonderful, wonderful people with Dr. Christine Pickup serving you, and I urge you to call for a hearing screening today. 312-0957, right across from the Minidoka Hospital Emergency Room, Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. I don't know if you're aware of it, but we got a caller. We'll take that first. Good morning. Good morning. You're with us on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, Zeb.
Hi.
I was listening when you were just now talking about Hillary Clinton. Did you ever see her with Bill in any of these appearances that she's making?
You know what I think, Chris? I honestly don't think she caught her heel in a grate and broke her toe. I think, honestly, this was a swift kick to Bill's posterior that broke her toe.
Anyway, if she thinks that she is making America love her doing this, I've got news for her. I shut my TV off when her face comes on. I can't hardly stand her. And I don't think I'm the only one.
She's turned into a very spiteful, and all the feminists out there, go ahead, write me a note. She's turned into a spiteful old hag, has she not?
Well, she's been around. We all know who she is. If we want to vote for her, we'll recognize her name on the ballot.
Yeah, you're going to recognize her name. She's just like kind of acid indigestion. She's not going away.
There's no cure.
No. I don't like the woman.
I think it's her way of trying to stay in the limelight because she's bound and determined to run again, I'll betcha.
Well, I just can't imagine. She's not a spring chicken, and she's going to be, what is she now? She's, by the next election, she'll be 73 or 74, and I know she has health concerns. I know a lot of people were worried about her bumps to the head and possibly what it caused and may cause. I just think that she's living in a dream world that the American public still might want her.
I do too. And she needs to retire and go be a grandma.
Amen. Thank you, Chris. God bless. Thank you so much. Nice lady right there. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. I'm just driving, and I heard you wanted to hear a feminine voice, and so I just have something short to say, and it's that I feel that everything Hillary says needs to be punctuated with regurgitation.
I take it that you would not vote for her in 2020.
I did not before, and I would certainly not ever again. Ever.
Let me ask you, from the female standpoint, what is it about Hillary that turns you off the most?
Her deceit.
That's interesting.
She'll go to any length to deceive.
And I absolutely think that's an excellent one-word phrase that sums her up. I thank you for your call, and drive carefully. Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless you. Thank you much. That was good. Deceit. That's the one word that sums up Hillary. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Hi, Zeb. I think Hillary needs to take her broken toe and anything else she can carry and go hide out in Siberia.
Yeah. Now, how dare you wish all that on the Siberians? They might be nice people over there.
Well, see, this way she'll find out what the rest of the world has to live like.
I agree with you. That was the good call. Good call. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Bye-bye.
I love it. Oh, you want to hear something that's absolutely crazy and goofy? I don't care if this offends anybody because it's absolutely nuts. Now, in California, if Jerry Brown signs the bill, and knowing nutsy old Governor Jerry Brown, he will, the state of California is going to allow 3 genders on your driver's license. Yeah, male, female, and non-binary, which would be filled in with an X. I laugh at this because it's just complete idiocy. And to think that we have got to this point in the United States, a country that has always prided itself on being smart and innovative and leading the world, and we took a big jump in the sewer by allowing this kind of garbage, a non-binary gender. I could not believe this. And Californians who have an ID that does not match their gender presentation, showing it at airports and shops or to law enforcement, can be extremely stressful and lead to harassment, as it should. Why should we give these people the benefit of hiding who they are or what they represent? An ID says you are so-and-so male, you are so-and-so female. But now, under the cloak of hiding and conspiracy and secrecy, they're going to have an X. Well, who are you? Well, I'm non-binary. I don't know what I want to do as far as my gender. There are 2 genders, male and female. Say it again, class. And this is idiocy, and it's being stretched to the max. And when I say that, a story just came out of England. And there is a school in Britain right now that is allowing biological boys to sleep in the girls' dorm, wear skirts, and use gender-neutral pronouns, and also be addressed by girls' names. What? Yeah. The new policies at Gordon School in England let both boys and girls use whichever bathrooms the individual feels comfortable using and dress however they see fit. The school policy allows boys to wear jewelry, makeup, and sport long hair. And students are leaving in droves, and parents are mad as can be. And the parents are expressing many, many complaints and approaching school authorities, sending letters, and saying that their children are not comfortable with these policies. Why? Why do we allow a very minority of numbers to control and infiltrate and put in dangerous situations normal children? This shouldn't be allowed. And it's just part of the left, the sleaze, and the filth that they represent, encroaching into the normalcy of our families and our children. This has got to stop. And listen to this. Canada last month went one step further and gave its citizens the option of marking X as an unspecified gender designation for any federal document issued by immigration, refugees, and citizens of Canada, including passports. How do they get away with this in this day and age of terrorism and people trying to hide who they are? Well, who are you? Well, I'm neither male or female, I'm X. Let me on the plane. Are you kidding me? And we do nothing. We do nothing to fight this. And the Governor Moonbeam in California that is living and has always lived in a la-la land, Governor Jerry Brown probably is going to sign this, and it's going to go into law for California. And then there's going to be the approach for other states to accept it. And then those weirdos will come up here into our area and show their ID, and it says X, and we're going to have to accept it. People, this is nuts. There are 2 genders, male and female. And the rest of the kooks and the crackpots, they better go into a cave and have a long visit with themselves as to really what they are and who they are. Don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Center's fall tire sale going on right now. We're doing the right thing matters. They do. They really take care of the issue with the best in service. Whether it's new tires, during this fall tire sale, they've got all the tires for your cars, your pickups, your SUVs. Man, oh man, I mean, these are the greatest of people, and I'm so proud to have them as our major sponsor. And, of course, you know that they take care of all the other items, you know, like the brake service and the front end alignments and the shocks and the struts and the batteries. Oh, you better check your battery. But service on all of these things to make sure and keep you driving safely. Absolutely. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley, my old buddy. Fall tire sale, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. We're going to take a little break for about 6-7 minutes, and we have a guest next hour you don't want to miss. She's got a book called Fatwa, Hunted in America. Pamela Geller, you probably heard about her. She is absolutely worried and knows all about the Muslim influence in this country and the dangers. Coming up at 9:06. All right, we're going to take a little break. Wheels, take it away, buddy. I'll be back in 7 minutes. No, brother. I hope political correctness didn't come into play on that issue. Good morning, everybody. Zeb at the Ranch, and with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, and a great big fall tire sale going on right now at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, along with some of our great advertisers like Western Way Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Way Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Way Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Way Services.
You know, the 4 words say it all. Always at your disposal. Getting rid of your garbage. Western Way Services, the number to call, 734-6969. Take it from me, get on the route service, and then they'll be there to take your garbage and get rid of it. You can wave goodbye to all your smelly problems. Your garbage is gone, thanks to Western Way Services. Always at your disposal, 734-6969. Don't forget, too, as I've mentioned, the days are going to get chilly, and you want to stay comfy indoors with a Lennox home comfort system from Ramsey Heating and Electric at, of course, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. And you may qualify to get up to a $1,600 rebate on a new Lennox system. Call Ramsey Heating and Electric today at 678-0459. One more good word for our advertisers. I want to say thank you again to Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert with Joel Heward, his family, and his staff. So community-oriented and serving everyone in southern Idaho. Absolutely there for you when you need them. Hanson Mortuary, always treating you and your family with the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. When there's the passing of a loved one, everything just gets thrown up in the air time-wise. You don't know what to do. They do. They can help. They will help. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. The number to call, 436-5636. I want to say up front that I am absolutely honored to have this lady on our program. I've heard and read a lot about her, and she is the author of a new book called Fatwa, Hunted in America. And she's the founder and editor and publisher of the Geller Report and president of the American Freedom Defense Initiative and Stop Islamization of America. Amen. Good morning, Pamela Geller. How are you?
Very well. Thank you for having me, Zeb, so much.
Pamela, like I said, I've followed your story, and I know quite a bit about you, but let's talk a little bit quickly in the time that we have here this morning about your book. Very serious title, Fatwa, Hunted in America. I understand that has a lot to do with your own personal experiences, correct?
That is correct. It is my story. Followers and supporters of my work generally know that I don't talk about the personal aspect, but I thought it was time. I don't know if Americans realize that there are Americans in this country who stand in defense of freedom of speech that are living under constant death threat. Fatwa, what fatwa means for your listeners who may be unfamiliar with the term, is an Islamic ruling by a recognized authority. It is a death sentence given by a recognized Islamic authority for those who, like myself, perceive to offend or criticize Islam. That is punishable by death under Islamic law. Now, while we're living in America, you think, well, it's not a problem. It is a problem. There have been multiple death threats on my life. As we speak right now, there's a trial ongoing in Boston of a Muslim group who had plotted to behead me, and it had attacked a Boston cop, and one of the jihadis were killed, which is why it's on trial now and why I'm still alive. But this is ongoing. A fatwa has no expiration date, and so I thought it was time that I wrote a book about my story, how a New York City career girl who's basically apolitical goes from being a sort of, glam girl to the country's most notorious racist, Islamophobic, anti-Muslim bigot. Even though, of course, Islam is not a race, anyone who gets involved in this fight and stands in defense of freedom of speech will be targeted by the left-wing media, by left-wing groups, hate machines like the Southern Poverty Law Center, the Media Matters, American Center for Progress, and all of these uber-left groups that are enormously funded. You will be targeted. You will be labeled a monster, a racist, even though Islam is not a race, an Islamophobe, even though, opposition to jihad terror is a rational and logical position to take. But if you take it, you will be labeled an Islamophobe. And, I think it's important that people understand that I'm but a proxy in this terrible war, and that what has happened to me is what happens in small and large ways to every American who stands for freedom. Every American needs to read this book because they have no idea that this is going on in this country right now in the 21st century.
Let's break this down a little bit, Pamela, if you would, and let's go back prior to 2001 and the 9/11 killing of Americans on our American soil. Where did all this protectionism start, and by whom, for Islam and Muslims in America? It's to the point where, those poor Muslims, we must feel sorry for them. And someone like Pamela Geller or Zeb Bell, why, they're bigots and hate mongers. Where did all this start?
Look, this has been happening for some time. It's interesting. I had a copy of the 1965 Cyclopedia Britannica, and if you looked up Islam in that book, you would have seen an actual drawing of Muhammad, and he's holding up in one hand the Quran and in the other hand the sword, and it says the two symbols of Islam, the Quran and the sword, which is true because, Islam is spread by the sword. But if you looked at in 2000, the World Book Encyclopedia, if you looked at that, you would see that it said it was already whitewashed. There was no depiction. There was no drawing. It said, Islam, the jihad is in defense of Islam. So they have been working for quite some time to advance, scrub, censor, whitewash the Islam, Sharia, and jihad in academia, in the media. Look, every movie in Hollywood, for example, goes through MPAC. Gets screened through like an Islamic authority. And no, this is not Iran and Ramallah or Pakistan. This is America. And most people don't know that. The Society of Professional Journalists, which every quote-unquote professional journalist is a member of, has guidelines on how to report on Islamic terror. If you have to do not mention a motive. If you mention a motive, make sure you mention Christian terror. Although, of course, there is no such thing. I mean, we don't have Christians, across the world killing people, beheading them, screaming, Jesus Akbar, Jesus is greater.
Yeah.
Greater than what? Greater than your God. It's absurd on its face, but there is a war going on in the information battle space, and all the bullets and the bombs and the bloodshed comes as a result of what happens in this war. And it's really changing the dynamic because, you know, in Garland, Texas, when I held a free speech event, a couple of years ago, which was targeted by Muslims, and they opened fire on our free speech event. Imagine the first Islamic State attack in this country, targeted by jihadists. The FBI was in on the planning. We know this because of the indictment that was served in North Carolina. The ringleader, Eric Jamal Hendricks, was texting the FBI agent prior to the event, and the FBI agent was at our event, didn't warn us, didn't tell us. 60 Minutes did a piece on the FBI agent who was in the car behind the jihadists and got out of the car and took cell phone footage of them as they got out of their car, and when they started firing, the FBI agent got back in his car and drove away. Was actually pulled over by Garland police. The Garland police thought that the FBI agent was part of the jihad attack.
Oh,
they never told us, they never warned us, and they had no one at that event to protect us. It was my security team that killed those jihadis who tried to kill us. It was my security apparatus, my SWAT team. What did the FBI want to happen? What did President Obama want to happen? I think he wanted us to be hurt. I think he wanted us to be killed. It would have put a chilling effect on the freedom of speech. This is a president who went before the world 1 week after the Benghazi attacks and said, the future does not belong to those who slander the Prophet of Islam. That is Sharia. And we just found out last week in this beheading plot in Boston that the FBI had someone in on that plot too, in the plotting of the beheading plan. They never told me as well. And we see, it's not just me, we see in Las Vegas, the Islamic State is taking credit for the attack. Now, this is all I do. This is the work that I do. I can tell you the Islamic State has never taken credit for an event that is not theirs. Even in the past, where you had the Russian jetliner in the Sinai, they took credit. Authorities said, no, it wasn't them. A couple of weeks later, they furnished proof. They furnished a photo of the bomb. And then the Western authorities and in the Middle East, they had to, walk it back with their tail between their legs and say, oh, yes, it was. In the Philippines in June, the Resort World Casino was attacked. ISIS took credit for it. The authorities said, no, it wasn't them. Turns out it was sanctioned, if not directed by them. I mean, look, I don't know what happened in Vegas, but I do know it is a crime that the media is not talking about it. It is a dereliction of duty that the FBI has dismissed the ISIS claims out of hand. They have nothing else. Nothing. It's a stunning indictment of our law enforcement that such an attack, so meticulously planned, I mean, could not only be discussed in the media now, but that the FBI has nothing.
Yeah.
The idea that they're clinging to some absurd idea that he took Valium. He took a couple of Valium over the past 18 months. I think there are 20 pills in a bottle of 50 over the past 1,500 days. I mean, if that's the case, then this country would be in ruins. 3/4 of the country takes Valium. It's absurd. But they will do anything and say anything so as not to offend Islam.
Yeah.
So as not to criticize Islam. They go to extraordinary lengths. And this book is my struggle. This book tells not just of the multiple death attempts on my life, but the fight. I have had to sue every city, New York, Washington, Boston, Miami, Chicago, to get ads up in response to pro-jihad or anti-Israel or anti-Semitic ads that Muslims are running. They run their ads with no problem. Every time we go to run a response, we're denied. I sue. I win. And you know what happens? Political ads are banned in New York City for the first time. Political ads are banned in Washington, D.C. for the first time in history. In Boston, in Miami, in Chicago, in Seattle, in San Francisco. Do people even know this is happening?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so this is why this book needs to be purchased by every American. It tells the whole story of how I led the opposition to the Ground Zero Mosque, a 16-story monstrosity in a building that was destroyed in the 9/11 attacks. And still, even with the election of President Trump, you have a McMaster who talks about 9/11 and doesn't mention Islamic terrorism. Did he read the letters, the last martyrdom letters, the suicide letters of the 19 Muslim terrorists? They are religious documents. Allah is mentioned over 90 times. The Quran, the Hadith is widely cited, and still 16 years later, the McMaster, our government can't even talk about the motive.
Yeah.
Frankly and candidly, my book talks about how I work with Muslim girls in this country who want to live free lives, who don't want to wear the hijab, but live under penalty of violence and death in their own homes, in homemade concentration camps, because they want to be free. Nobody talks about those girls. Nobody talks about Amina and Sarah Saeed, or Noor al-Maliki, or Asia Hazan, or Jessica Mokdad, Muslim girls in this country who were honor murdered because they wanted to live free lives. Nobody talks about those girls. We give voice to the voiceless. This is a book that will shock your listeners, shock them to their very core. I strongly recommend that they get armed in the information battle space because they're being disarmed. They're being disarmed by the media, by music, industry, by movies, in academia, the public schools. Your children are being taught the Shahada. Your children are being taught the 5 pillars of Islam. They're not being taught the Lord's Prayer in your public schools. They're not being taught the Shema Yisrael in public schools. They're being taught the Shahada. There's a whole chapter on the Muhammad. There is not a whole chapter on Jesus Christ. These things are not happening by accident. They happen by design. And I strongly recommend your listeners go to fatwabook.org or go to Amazon and get Fatwa Hunted in America. You will be shocked. It's a true story of an American in the 21st century who is living under constant death threat, who requires 24 hours security because I stand in defense of freedom of speech.
All right. Now, I want to ask you...
and equality for all before the law.
Pamela, I've only got a few minutes left, and I want to ask you some poignant questions. One of the questions that came up while you were talking is the naivete of America and the naivete or stupidity of our politicians. Do you address that in the book?
I do. And I love the naivety of America. It's a reflection of their goodness and their kindness. What I don't forgive is the enemy media, the left-wing media aligned with the jihad force, scrubbing, censoring, and whitewashing the motive. As for politicians, listen, I don't get involved in politics for this very reason. Politicians, wet their finger, stick it up in the air, and try to determine where the wind is blowing. They are looking in the rearview mirror. It is up to us to change the culture. It is up to us to change the zeitgeist. We have to leapfrog over the media, over the culture, and we have to. Each one of your listeners is a one-man media organization. You have to share my website, for example, Geller Report, covers news the media won't cover. All sourced. There's no conspiracy theory. It's all sourced. You have to share it in your email, on your social media pages, whether you have a Twitter or a Facebook, whatever you have. If you just have an email list, you have to be a reporter. You have to get the word out to your peers. It's organic. It's a business of ones. Yes, we need an army of Davids against this Goliath, but it's the only thing. It's the only way we're going to win in the information battle space in the war of ideas. This is critical. If history has taught us anything, it's that the individual can change the course of human events. There are no passive observers in this war. There's no sitting on the fence. There's a right and there's a wrong. There's a good side, there's an evil side. And sitting on the fence, middle of the road, is evil. Evil. And so everybody must get involved. And the way to get involved is first, learn everything.
Pamela, let me ask you one question here that I know you're going to address in your book, and I want to get somewhat of an answer here this morning. We live in an area here in southern Idaho that is very incumbent, if you will, of bringing in refugees. We do not know about these people. We really don't have a vetting process. What are your concerns about refugees coming into this country, and do you address that also in your book?
It is addressed in my book. Listen, of course they're bringing in refugees. I've never been invited to speak in Idaho. You don't. How could people make an informed decision without the information? These refugees cannot be vetted. ISIS took the passport machine, so they may very well have very real papers, but they cannot be vetted. One only needs to look to Europe. And again, you're not going to get this news because it does not serve their agenda from the media. But if you go to GellerReport.com, my website, you will see the daily jihad attacks in Europe. The rape jihad now. 17-year-old girls cannot walk to school. They have to be taken to school by their parents. Europe is doomed. This is not a what if. This is not, conjecture. this is reality. Look to Europe if you want to see what will happen if you have a mass migration of Muslims. It's just that simple.
Yeah.
I mean, Europe is under siege. There is a low-grade civil war. Every day I report on whether it's knife jihad, where with people on a passenger train, 2 young girls were just slaughtered on a passenger train in cold blood with the perp screaming Allahu Akbar, the vehicular jihad, just mowing down of pedestrians on a regular basis. Forget about the big attacks. And then you have a media that won't discuss it candidly, even with Vegas. They're still talking about Charleston. One random, insane situation where, let's be honest, who's bigifying the Nazis but the media?
Yeah.
The Nazis are not a threat. I'm sorry. The Nazis were defeated in the last century. This is not what is presenting a grave threat to our freedom and our civilization. Okay?
Absolutely.
The leftist Islamic alliances. Listen, 2 weeks ago I was in Berkeley for Free Speech Week, which, by the way, was canceled. But what disturbed me more than anything, what I saw at Berkeley, was hundreds, if not thousands, of young people, millennials, marching against the freedom of speech. That should scare everybody. It was eerily evocative of Nazi Germany, the young people marching against the freedom of speech. I mean, that's our First Amendment.
Absolutely.
Whether you like what I say or not, what are you worried about? If your ideas are better, you'll win in the marketplace of ideas. No. They must silence us because their ideas cannot hold up to scrutiny. Their ideas cannot be challenged. They will not win. So they must shut us down. How do they shut us down? By making us into monsters.
Absolutely.
By making us by tarring and feathering us. In Muslim country, your characters are in Muslim countries you're assassinated. You're executed for violating the Sharia, for violating Islamic law. In this country, your character is assassinated. Your good name is murdered. You are dragged through the mud. You are made into a monster. That's what they have done to me, and that's what they have done to my colleagues, and I've written this book to warn every American that I am but a proxy in this long, terrible war. What has happened to me is what happens in small and large ways to every American who stands for freedom. You better get involved, or you're going to wake up one day in a gulag.
Absolutely. Pamela, I've got a caller with a question, and I'm only got 2 minutes left in this segment. Caller, very fast question. Go ahead, please.
Yes, the urgency in your voice is so real, and I know it. And what's so damn frustrating about all this is we take for granted our freedoms. We were fat and lazy Americans. We're distracted by our phones. We don't give a you-know-what about what's happening in Europe, and you're right. The media in Europe, the Pope, the media in America covering up what's going on. What is happening to those women and children in Europe is beyond outrageous.
Caller, quickly.
Our lack of caring here, and you say we will be held responsible for what we do or do not do with what blessings we've been given.
All right, Pamela, a short response, please. I'm almost out of time. I got a minute left.
He's absolutely right, but it's in our power to change the course of human events. We can do this. I strongly urge you to get the book because it is my personal story. It puts me in even greater risk, but it must be told because it's a story of every American, the ordinary American, and we can win and we can fight back, and you need to be first educated and educate those around you. And listen, I'd love to get to Idaho. Some group would invite me.
Absolutely.
I'm challenging some group in Idaho to invite me.
Absolutely.
I've never spoken there, and that is absurd with what's going on.
Where is the book sold? Quickly, tell us the outlets.
Go to fatrabook.org.
Okay.
Go to fatrabook.org or go to Amazon, go to Barnes & Noble. Buy it for your friends. Buy it for Christmas. Give it to a liberal friend. It is a reality check. I, too, was apolitical before 9/11, and then I read the Quran, and then I read Ibn Warq, and then I read Rafa Sultan. And then I got educated, and this is the gravest threat. In concert with the left. If not for the left, the jihadists would never have gotten so far. This red-green alliance is the gravest threat to our freedom and our civilization and our national. It's coming down, and it's coming down fast.
Absolutely. Pamela Geller, the author of Fatwa, Hunted in America. And please come back soon, Pamela. Thank you so much. God bless. Thank you. I ran out of time. I'm sorry. And I could just sat and listen to her talk about this for hours because I believe her. And I absolutely espouse what she's saying. Pamela Geller, I'm going to get a copy of the book and we'll have her back in the future. Whoa, got to catch up on some things right now and remind you about Ark Animal Hospital, 750 21st Street near Connection Credit Union in Heyburn. Oh my goodness, great people to work with, Dr. Bill and the whole staff, taking care of your animals. And now going into the fall, great time to worm all of your animals and get them ready for the cold winter ahead. And make sure too that whether it's a big animal or a small little kitty cat, they can help you because Ark Animal Hospital is a mixed animal practice, meaning big or small, they love them all. They do have warm hearts for cold noses. I urge you to get a hold of Ark Animal Hospital. In Heyburn, the number to call, 678-1177. Also want to remind you, too, about our friends over at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Hello, Jeff Bronson. How you doing over there? Jeff was all bundled up last Friday night at the football game over in Kimberly. He looked like a little snowman out there. And I'll tell you what, Jeff and LeGrand, Morgan, Hillary, Emily, Trina, all the folks over there really want to serve you. Get ready. Get your house ready for the holidays. Lee's Furniture has a special on window coverings, and they've got all the carpet and all the beautiful vinyl and luxury vinyl planks, all of this and more with all the furniture, all the recliners. Boy, have they got a selection of recliners at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. 459 Overland in Burley. I urge you to stop in and see my friends today. Jeff Bronson is back at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. 459 Overland in Burley. Nice people over there. And before we go to our next guest, I also want to remind you about your insurance professionals, which are Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. And I'll give you the number right up front to call, make an appointment, and they can help you with your life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, 436-4424. Write that down, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. They are dedicated and responsive to your needs. All you need to do is call 436-4424, Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Real quick, while you're over in that area, don't forget, for all the fun outside and going all over southern Idaho, four-wheelers or whether it's a side-by-side or now, think about the snowmobiles. They've got all the new 2017 snowmobiles at Let's Ride. 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World, waiting to serve you. All you have to do is stop over Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays 9 to 4, along with all the 4x4s and all the snowmobiles. They've got the best doggone service department around. Keep you running, and all the accessories, too. Let's Ride. 270 Highway 24 in Rupert, where the fun is sold. Let's go to the phone line right now. We've got our next guest ready to go, and he is going to be speaking, I believe, at the College of Southern Idaho tonight. And I want to say a good morning to Tom DeWeese. Tom, good morning. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thank you.
Tom, let's get a little history on yourself. I understand you're the founder and president of the American Policy Center, and you do a lot of work talking about the United Nations and their agenda, especially Agenda 21. And I want you to pick it up right there and tell my audience about a subject that we've had many, many guests on, Agenda 21. I'm very concerned about it. What are your thoughts, and what's some of what you're going to be speaking about tonight?
Yeah, one of the main things that I focus on with this is the attack on private property rights and on individuality, on free enterprise. All these things this agenda started back in 1992 through the United Nations, the Earth Summit that was in Rio de Janeiro. We had 50,000 delegates there, heads of state, private organizations, bureaucrats, diplomats, all there, putting together what they called was the comprehensive blueprint for the reorganization of human society. That's the thing. They tell us what they mean, and people don't listen. And as they're putting Agenda 21 together in our communities, We have all of these visioning programs, development programs that we're just trying to make sure that our communities grow in the proper way and that kind of thing. But what we find out is all these programs are exactly alike. I can tell you can go on Google and you can see Dubai 2050 or Jamaica 2050. They all end up with numbers like that, 2050, 2030, 2040. They're all exactly the same thing, but what they really are complete control of our community, control on our energy, control on building, control on cars, things like that, changing our human society exactly as the UN promised that they wanted to do, put it all down in their image.
Tom, in your opinion, and believe me, I'm on your side on this story totally, but in your opinion, why are the American people so gullible and so naive and can't really see the forest because a tree is standing in their way when it comes to Agenda 21? This is something that absolutely, like you said, has been going on for a long time. We've seen the wolf reintroduction, the salmon problem, the spotted owl problem, etc., where they push humans out of the way in sacrifice for the animals or the environment, and it's going to get a lot worse, isn't it?
Well, they put it in such a language that, for example, in the cities or the smart growth programs where they have these high-rise condos and that sort of thing, you're just going to be able to walk to work, and you can play with the kids in the park, and you don't have to have all the pressures of modern society. They sell it all that way. It sounds like a beautiful 18th century village, but with all modern technology, to help run it. And so people buy into that we're protected, we're safe, we're happy. And the fact of the matter is, none of that is true. You end up with more congestion, more crime, higher taxes, less, sacrificing, your way of life and so forth. But they keep selling it with that wonderful sounding language. And people buy into it. We all want to be happy. We all want to get along. We don't want all the strife we have. And so we buy into this, and they're always telling us it's there to protect us. It's there to help us. It's there to make us happier. And yet, step by step by step, what we're really doing is voluntarily throwing all of our liberties on a bonfire like a good old-fashioned book burning. And we don't even get it. You can do a lot of analogies like the frog in the pot, the boiling pot. We don't see it happening. I think another major reason for this is the public education system is churning out people designed to and organized to live in this kind of a global village without questioning authority, without questioning why, and they don't have a lot of background to understand why these things are wrong or how it's really affecting them. And so they've kind of got it all covered. And it's very difficult to stand up to it and question it if you really don't know the details behind it.
Tom, what are some of the key watch phrases or items to look for in various communities when you hear about Agenda 21? How far advanced are they in their movement of control in this country, and what do we need to be really wary of?
Well, they are very advanced in what they're doing. And the minute you start hearing about a visioning plan for the community or a new comprehensive plan, that's your first clue. And if you hear words like sustainable development or smart growth, or you hear talks of we need to cut back on our carbon footprints and we need to protect the environment, so these are all clues that stuff is happening. Wetlands regulations and endangered species and all that sort of thing are all part of this top-down control. And one of the real things, and this is something that I will talk about tonight and actually show in a demonstration, you have your county commissioners or your city council, and people believe that's their government. But you go in there and try to talk to them about these things, and, I always say you get that professional eye roll and a sigh, oh, you mentioned Agenda 21, oh, ho-hum. The reason you're getting that is because what you don't see behind your elected officials are planners, planning organizations, non-governmental organizations, the Sierra Club, an organization called ICLEI, the International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives. There are probably, right here in Twin Falls, you will probably find 15 or 20 or maybe more of these kinds of organizations that all have their own private agendas that are pushing them behind the scenes. They are working with federal agencies that have grant programs. The grant programs come with very specific strings attached. If you take the grant program and comply to that grant, you are forced to put these programs in place. And very few people understand that. Your city councilman will tell you, oh, that's free money. It's our tax money. No, it's not. There's nothing free about it. It is rules and regulations. And what you're finding as this is happening is that local representative government is in vast danger of being dictated to by these federal agencies to put these programs in place. One of the things we tell people, don't take the grants. That's number one in trying to fight back on this, because they will control you.
Okay, Tom, let's get to the they. They. We always keep referring to the they. Who are they? How did they get so well organized? And where's all the money coming for they to stop us?
Good questions. It, again, this started at the international level through the United Nations. And the they are these non-governmental organizations, the Sierra Club, the Nature Conservancy, even Planned Parenthood is one of them. The National Education Association is one of these organizations pushing these ideas. And the grant money is coming from the federal government, but you also have the environmental movement is vastly wealthy. They have an organization called the Environmental Grant Makers Association. And let's say, for example, that these people who are putting these projects in place want to stop, say, like the building of a hospital or another runway at the airport or something like that. They will suddenly come up with some excuse, like there's a gnat that lives there, or some kind of fly or something, some kind of bug, whatever it is, endangered. And the Grant Makers Association will put $1 million out and create a new organization, Save the Gnat, and they start making all kinds of control, and they eventually block that project. You have these people working in the back scenes of your city councils and your county commissions, and they're telling them, we've got all this right here in a box. We've got everything you need. We've got the money for it, and just put this in place. It's just for the community. It's all local. There's nothing local about it. It's an international policy, and it comes through the federal government. Bill Clinton's President's Council on Sustainable Development that was made up of these kind of groups, as well as business leaders, as well as government agencies, all came together there to begin to create these kinds of programs that are now coming down through HUD, Department of Department of Transportation, and of course the EPA. These kind of federal agencies are putting these things in place.
Tom, one of the big worries I have, of course, living in a highly prospering agricultural area, is agriculture itself and some of the hits that they're taking from the EPA and other sources. What about agriculture in the future in this country? How are we going to feed and sustain ourselves with the cutbacks on the uses of the land?
That's a very good question. These are, we'll hear a lot of rhetoric about we need local farms, buy fresh, buy local. But in reality, what you see happening, a lot of these local farmers are being pressured to sign things like conservation easements and sell their development rights. The argument that's given to them is that this will allow you to always be, it'll always be farmland. You will always be able to have your farm. I've never met a farmer in my life who didn't want to be a farmer. But they're afraid that the development is going to come in and take their land. And so they sign these conservation easements saying, now it'll always be a farm. What happens is the land trust, like the Nature Conservancy, that controls that conservation easement, now begins to make dictates on those farmers. You have to do sustainable farming. Well, what does that mean? That means we're going to tell you what kind of crops you raise. That means that we're going to tell you what kind of energy you're allowed to use in the growing of those crops. That means that we're going to dictate to you about whether you can use certain chemicals and so forth to keep pests away. Next thing you know, the farmer isn't able to compete. He's not. His yield is smaller, and everything's much more expensive. What this begins to lead us to, first of all, he goes out of business as a farm. The land trust owns the land, locks it away. Nothing is happening on that land. But we begin to see the emergence of corporate farms that get bigger and bigger because they work in partnership with the groups and with the government. And I believe that that's the direction we're going to go in, corporate farms, not personal small farms.
Tom, you, of course, speak all over the country on Agenda 21, and my next question, I don't want to take any fire away from tonight's meeting, but where are we on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not too serious, 10 being Katie bar the door, with the Agenda 21 being introduced and formulated in this country? Where are we on a 1 to 10 scale right now to worry about?
I would say we're at about an 8.
Wow.
If we don't stand up to this, if we don't begin to understand what this is all about and what the threats are, in the last election, had it gone another way, we'd be at about 10 now. And we have a hope, we have an opportunity. One of the things that I am beginning to see, as 20 years we've been talking about issuing the warnings, people don't react to things until they start to feel the pressure of it and the effects of it. But we are beginning to get people now asking questions, starting to look at it. Most importantly, what excites me is I'm beginning to get calls from elected officials saying, what do I do to try to stop this in my jurisdiction? These are state legislators, some are city councilmen, some are county commissioners. I even got a call from a chairman of a planning commission, which blew me away. So they're beginning to see the dangers of this, and this is an opportunity, but we have to stand up now. And in this world of sound bites, when everything is done in 1 or 2 sentences, and this is such a massive issue, and people can't wrap their heads around it because it affects every aspect of our life. But putting it in sound bite, what I'm telling audiences is, if you stand up for private property rights, if you stand up to get government to defend your property rights, they cannot implement sustainable development policies because it is an anti-property policy. And so this is what I'm teaching people across the country, is to just stand up for that, and we can begin to diminish the threat on this, and then we can push forward in other ways.
All right, we have a caller with a question, and I'm going to caution the caller, keep it short and precise and concise, because I'm limited on time. Go ahead, caller.
Yes, I read more and more about big, huge ranches that were privately owned that are now being either donated or bought by the Nature Conservancy, and it's such a crock, and we act like it doesn't even matter. And I'm sitting here going, this kind of thing, where we're losing private property to these organizations, is killing us. And I'm telling you, just north of here, there are ranches that used to be vibrant, where you saw cattle grazing, and because of the environmentalists, they do not allow the cattle to graze on them anymore because they do not want that to be a precedent. They do not want to graze the cattle in the forests like we used to, grazing with sheep and cattle, and they don't even allow it on this ranch. And it's engulfing us, and we don't seem to even care. I'll hang up.
Respond to the caller, please, if you would.
Absolutely. He's saying exactly what it is. And, it's interesting. If you look into the UN's biodiversity assessment, and it talks about what is not sustainable, one of the things in there is the grazing of livestock is not sustainable. It damages the earth. And, of course, ski runs are another thing that they say is not sustainable. But this attack on ranchers is across the country. This is one of the reasons why the Bundys stood up and tried to fight back with the BLM. They were the last of about 50 ranches that had been taken one at a time. You have government taking these ranches and getting the natural resources off of them and selling them to foreign countries. And so it's an assault on that. They tell us that beef consumption is not sustainable, and they're trying to stop us from eating beef. And so, they say that the cattle damage the environment through, pardon me for saying this, but through their flagellants. That's adding to global warming. That is an absolute crock. It's a lie. It's not true, but it's the excuse to get control of the land, and that's what it's about, controlling the land and moving people. We always talked in the beginning when we started talking about Agenda 21 that one of the goals was to herd people off the rural areas and put them in the cities where they're much more easy to control. People laughed at that and said, well, how do you do that? One step at a time. You
Yep.
make it impossible to live in the rural areas, and people start to voluntarily leave because they can't stay there.
Yeah.
And this is what we're seeing happen.
Tom, real quick, short answer on this. I'm almost out of time, but one of my pet peeves are politicians themselves. Currently, we have a Senate and a Congress that I would compare to the Keystone Cops. Are they naive, stupid, or a combination of the both when it comes to Agenda 21?
I think they're naive, stupid, and complicit. And there are a lot of people who are packing their pockets with these agendas. And not only the planning organizations that live off of the grants, but also the congressmen, different politicians. After the Kelo decision in 1995, where the Supreme Court literally said there are no private property rights in this country. If a local government wants to take property for some other purpose in the city, then that's okay. From that point forward, local officials started partnering with developers to stack their own pockets to build these projects, and it's just money a go-go for them.
All right, we have one caller. Caller, I'm going to caution you. I'm only going to give you 30 seconds for your question. Go ahead quickly.
Yeah, I just want to ask how the global warming hoax fits into Agenda 21.
All right, real quick. Thank you. Tom, quickly address the global warming hoax.
Yeah. Global warming is the number one weapon in their arsenal. I have environmentalists saying to me all the time, it doesn't matter how many rights you think you have. If you don't have a planet to stand on, it doesn't matter. So we have got to stop man. Man is the enemy. We've got to stop man from moving forward to save the planet. Of course, there's absolutely no science to back that up, but that is their most effective tool.
All right, now, Tom, quickly tell us about tonight at 7 p.m. on the campus of CSI. Give us the rundown of where you'll be speaking and what time.
It's going to be at the Herritt Center there at CSI in the Rick Allen Room. It starts at 7 o'clock. Tickets are just $5. And I'm going to give you a rundown of all this, where it comes from, what it means, and what to do about it. And we're getting very good responses. I'm doing this across the country.
Tom, I'm out of time, but I want to say this. I'm going to have you back if you could and would come back and be another guest on my program at a future date to discuss this even further. But, Tom DeWeese, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Absolutely, I'll be back. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, sir. And good luck tonight on CSI's campus at 7 p.m. at the Herritt Center's Rick Allen Room. Tickets are only $5. And this man, a very knowledgeable man, is the founder and president of the American Policy Center. He's going to be discussing Agenda 21. Don't miss it. It's going to be very interesting this evening. And we're going to have him back on future broadcasts. Thank you very much. We've got to get a weather forecast on here. I can see old Wheels over at the station. He's going, Zeb, hurry up. Okay, I am. The weather brought to you by Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. CPAs that have been providing accounting services to the Mini-Cash area for well over 50 years. Tax return preparation, tax planning, business consulting, all of this and more. Deanne, you've got some special notes out in the other room that I need, as a matter of fact. Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. And they're saying to you, get ready for the end of the year, and they can help. They will help. Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company, with offices in Burley and Rupert. And right now, here's the weather.
We're going to be warm for the next couple of days. I am not complaining about that. However, there is one day this week we're not going to like. Here's your weather for Zeb at the Ranch. Looking at sunny skies for today. High of 71. Tonight, clear skies, low of 39. Tomorrow, sunny and 71 with an overnight low of 40. Pretty much the same for Thursday. Sunny and 74 with an overnight low of 42 under partly cloudy skies. However, Friday going to be the game changer. Looks like 40% chance of rain showers are in the forecast. Winds are going to be picking up, high of 53. And then for Saturday, partly to mostly sunny skies, high of 54. That's your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
And thank you very much, Gina. And we want to say thank you to Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. CPA serving you for over 50 years. The very best. And if you're thinking about starting a business, a partnership, or a corporation, be sure and check with them. They have the answers that can help you. Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. Also, we want to remind you about some friends of ours that have been on this program for quite some time, and I urge you to get a hold of them and find out more information for your loved ones. What are we talking about? We're talking about Autumn Haven Assisted Living Center at 924 Christian Way in Rupert. The number to call, 436-3200. Don't forget that they really want you to come by and take a tour. They really want you to learn more for perhaps a family member that needs a little bit more one-on-one care. They can help. They will help. And also, the residents over at Autumn Haven Assisted Living Center invite the families to bring the kids by on Halloween for trick-or-treat. Absolutely. They're small compared to some, but with a bigger heart than most. Don't forget, Autumn Haven Assisted Living Center, 924 Christian Way in Rupert, 436-3200. Coming up next hour, we're going to have Dr. History on the program, and he's going to be right here in the studio. And then at 10:30 this morning, we're going to visit with Representative Fred Wood. We're going to be talking about all the various committees that have been working through the course of the summer to garner information for the upcoming legislative session. And it should be a real interesting phone call with Representative Fred Wood at 10:30 this morning. Quick reminder that Zeb's Lunch Bunch will be Thursday, this week Thursday, at 11:30 at Denny's, of course, America's Diner at 611 North Overland in Burley. We urge you to come on down, be a part of it. We've got a lot of door prizes, and we want to say thank you to a lot of great people, including our friends at Walmart, Smith's Food, Hanson Mortuary, Denny's Restaurant, Doug Martin, all those folks really helping us at our lunch bunch, Zeb's Lunch Bunch at Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner on Thursday at 11:30. Let's see. Oh, and one other item that I've been asked to highlight this morning quickly before I have to leave, the Rupert Square Trunk or Treat will be held on Halloween, October 31st on the square from 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. This is a very safe, family-friendly environment. The square is going to be filled with cars with their trunks open for all kinds of candy. For donations, or to help participate, call 434-2757 or 312-2785. That's over in Rupert on the square, Halloween Trunk or Treat. We're going to take a break for about 7 minutes. Dr. History coming up next on Zeb at the Ranch. Don't you go away. Oh, we're back, and I've got a guest with me, and we're going to have him on the air momentarily. Zeb at the Ranch brought to you by your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And, of course, some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Western Waste, 734-6969. You got a dog or a kitty cat? Well, you can celebrate Halloween, Four Paws Annual Party and Costume Parade. Doc, dress up your dog. Saturday, October 28th, 1 to 3 p.m., they're going to have a parade and judging, and they're going to have a groomer available for walk-ins, for fur coloring and fur stenciling and nail and painting. Not you, Doc, the dog. And don't forget, free refreshments, pictures, and prizes, all at Four Paws Bed and Bath, 370 West, 200 South of Rupert. Number to call, 438-4444. Halloween at Four Paws. Don't forget, too, our friends, and they are our friends, at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, along with Lennox Home Comfort Systems. You may qualify for getting up to a $1,600 rebate on a Lennox home comfort system. All you have to do is check it out with them today. Give them a call, 678-0459. Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox, saving you money. Well, it's that time of the week, Tuesday at 10:07 right now, and here he is, the world-famous traveler, Dr. History.
Good morning, Zeb.
How are you, my friend?
Great. Beautiful fall day out there. The beach.
The next couple of days, they said in the mid-70s.
Yeah, the beach piles are getting bigger.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
There's a lot of piles that get bigger, especially when you come into this program.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
What's going on?
Okay, we're going to talk about transportation in the Old West, and one of the main modes of transportation.
Are you lost?
Not a bit.
The look on your face said it all. It was like, Zeb, help me.
The word wasn't coming. The squirrel fell off the cage.
Oh, my goodness.
So the Missouri River.
That was a big river.
It was.
A lot of transportation.
Yeah. I mean, it led the people in canoes and keelboats and eventually steamboatmen from Mississippi all the way to Fort Benton, Montana, nearly half a mile above sea level and 3,000 miles from the river's mouth.
Wow.
For generations of explorers and exploiters, the Missouri was kind of the key to the West. It provided access to the fur riches that drew the first frontiersmen into the wilderness, and after the Civil War, it conveyed thousands of prospectors to the Rocky Mountain gold. But the river was rough. It was rough.
What was the schematic? What was the course of the river? Where did you...
Actually, I'm going to go through that. I'll explain how that goes.
Why is it every time I ask you a question, you always say,
get to that.
well, I'm going to get to that.
I'll get to that. So, here's a stream or a river of flowing mud with dead tree trunks and broken sandbars. But there were hundreds of steamboats that ran this river, and they might earn a great profit on a voyage, or they might lose the entire cost and whatever they had invested in that boat.
It was that serious?
Yeah.
Dangerous?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
But eventually, technology overtook the rivermen. Beginning in 1859, the railroads began to cross the Missouri, and by 1890, the last of the boats departed from Fort Benton, and that was kind of the end of the steamboats.
Oh, okay. So they actually had steamboats on the Missouri River.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. But most Americans have been left with the impression that the West was opened almost exclusively by wagon train and the railroads. But if you think about it, a wagon train really can't carry that much cargo. And the railroads, it was okay, but it didn't reach the West till about the 1880s.
Well, and you had destination points that might be 5, 6, 7, 1,000 miles away from where you really needed it to be.
Exactly. So the Missouri River was for almost a century the most important single means of entrance into the whole wild and empty subcontinent between the Mississippi and the Pacific.
Wow.
So it was a river that men followed, in search of homesteads and furs and gold and their fortunes. And, they just hear all these great things about the West. So the Missouri was the way to go.
Really?
But Missouri was not actually the only stream that served as a road and a channel. And you've probably heard of some of these. There's the Red River, the Des Moines River, the Sacramento.
Well, no, the Red River bordering in between Oklahoma and Texas.
Yeah, and the San Joaquin River, the Columbia.
Yeah.
But none of these quite had the size of what we call the Big Muddy, the Missouri.
Really?
And it was really the Big Muddy.
Oh.
But it was the great watercourse of the prairies and the longest river on the North American continent. It was a broad but dangerous and changeable river. I mean, it went from the Continental Divide to junction with the Mississippi, which was about 23 miles north of St. Louis. So
wow.
All that way, But it led the upstream traveler almost. Okay, here's the map. If you can get this, okay. It led the upstream traveler almost due west across the state of Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
Then it turned sharply right or north at the Kansas border.
Okay.
Okay. Then it ran north and kind of northwest for about 1,000 miles, dividing Kansas from Missouri and Nebraska from Iowa. Then it went through the middle of South Dakota and most of North Dakota. And after that, it actually headed off west, kind of roughly parallel with the Canadian border. And not that far, really, from the Canadian border. and then into Montana, and that's kind of the route that it took.
What did it join into?
Well, into the Mississippi.
Into the Mississippi on the east end.
Right.
But what about on the west
there
end?
it was just a series of creeks and streams that came together to form the Missouri.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought maybe it might have some kind of a confluence that would lead over to the coast or something.
No, not to the west. But to the east, yes.
Yeah.
But the Missouri Valley cradled some of the most warlike of the American Indians.
Oh yeah.
So here you've got people going down this river, and you've got the Osage, the Pawnees, the Arikaras, band after band of the Sioux, and finally near the Rockies, the Assiniboines and the notorious Blackfeet.
So they scheduled these different rafts or boats to go down the river, not down the river, actually up the river towards the northwest, right?
Yes.
And when they put in for night at a landing or something, look out.
Yes, that could be very dangerous.
I see.
In fact, there's a guy named Jacques Marquette. He says, I have seen nothing more frightful, referring to the river. He said, a mass of large trees enters with branches interlocked, a floating island. We could not without great danger expose ourselves to pass across. So this was not just your Snake River or your, an easy river to go up or down.
Now, you mentioned earlier, you said that it was more dangerous than the Columbia.
No, well, maybe. No, I didn't say that, but
you did. I thought you did, but the Columbia scares me to death.
Oh yeah, and that's a huge river.
Yeah.
But anyway, the river rose twice a year. Okay, the first period of high water began in April, when the spring rains and the prairie snow melt raised the level of its tributaries, obviously. So the second rise occurred in either May or June, when the sun began melting the snowfields of the Rockies. So now picture this, thousands and thousands of uprooted trees that had been hung up in the sandbars in low water, now they're released. Now they're coming down the river.
And they're coming at these boats.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
So, a river...
I shouldn't say boats, rafts.
Yeah. It became charged with floating logs, and thousands more of the trees grew waterlogged and then sank. So now they're not above water, they're below. And so now you got these boats coming along that might hit a submerged log and, tear out the bottom.
What would you do? You bring up a really good point here. You're floating down the Missouri, and all of a sudden here comes a bunch of 30-foot tall trees floating in the river.
You better be a Dodger.
I don't like.
Or you're going to be an angel.
I'm pulling for the Cubs, not the Dodgers.
Well, anyway, also vast areas of the Missouri froze over in the winter, and the first flood, a lot of times, littered itself with these grinding, huge ice flows, which there again, if you're in a boat or whatever, you've got these big chunks of ice floating towards you. Now, they also, of course, had to put up with tornadoes and thunderstorms and sandstorms, and prairie fires, they actually claimed could actually blister the paint on a steamboat if you were too close to the bank. It was that hot. So, and then clouds and clouds of mosquitoes. My dad was born in Montana, and he talks about, you could slap a horse's neck and your hand would be bloody from the mosquitoes.
You really paint a good picture of tourism going down the Missouri River.
It was not the Princess Cruise.
Oh, my goodness.
The Missouri remained kind of a critical route, nevertheless, for travelers going beyond the Mississippi, and not only led to the Rockies, but enclosed enormous system of tributaries, and these all watered about 500,000 square miles of the Dakotas, Nebraska, Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, and it opened land routes to almost every other corner of the West. But the longest and most useful sighted of the tributary trails lay along the Platte, and you know about the Platte.
Yeah.
And that actually conducted the traveler about 300 miles west across Nebraska. So the Platte was really another major mode of transportation.
Yeah, it was.
Into southern Wyoming. So the way west, really began with the Missouri, and before the age of the steamboat, of course, the Indians rode the Missouri in bull boats. Now, the bull boat, is a little craft made out of stretching the hide of a buffalo bull over a framework of willow branches. Now, this is something I found interesting. The buffalo bull was better than the female hide as far as repelling the water. And
really?
I have no idea why. Then you have the Mackinac boats. Now, these were flat boats about as much as 70 feet long, and they could float tons of cargo downstream. But Mackinaws,
70 feet is a pretty good raft, or a pretty good boat. Yeah.
But the Mackinaws could not be worked against the current, so an upriver voyage was really.
How much weight could you put on as far as goods and services on a boat like that?
Well, they say tons.
Really?
In some of those, yeah. So, but really, to get up the river, if you had a canoe or a keel boat. Now, a keel boat also was about 70 feet long, and they were about 15 to 18 feet across. And you've seen pictures. They have a little shack on the back, like a little house type thing. And on either side of that, you have a walkway, and the guys will take poles and push and walk. Push and walk.
And you better hope your pole's long enough.
Yes.
Right?
Or don't let it get stuck in the mud.
Holy smokes.
And then they also had seats for oarsmen, and they had from 6 to 12 of these guys on oars, and they usually had a brass cannon attached on the front of the keelboat. So now the keelboat also had a mast that could actually take a sail. And so sometimes they'd actually put up a sail.
Now, they didn't have Evinrudes, so they could turn them on or pull on the cord. But what about those other boats you were talking about, that 70-footer? I mean, was that all manpower?
Yeah,
or?
Those guys would in these boats would be on the end of a long rope, and sometimes the water was up to their knees, sometimes their waist, sometimes they were in water up to their necks, pulling on these boats along.
So literally, they had people on the shore pulling the boat upriver.
Right, but they had to have somebody in the water too to keep the boat from coming ashore.
Sounds to me like the guys that were on the shore pulling the ropes, they should have got hazardous duty pay.
I'd have been the one on the boat saying, "Come on, guys, a little harder."
Yeah, no kidding.
But the keelboaters believed that steamboats simply would not be able to make it up the Missouris because of the snags and the sandbars. But the first paddle voyage on the river was by a little steamer called the Independence, and it took a load of flour, sugar, and whiskey, the essentials, 250 miles in 1819. So
this is back in 1819?
Yeah.
Wow.
And after that, there was a lot of these early steamboats that tried to do this, but there was a lot of them that sank or broke down and just never made it.
You got to give these people a lot of credit for one simple word, guts.
Yeah.
Wow.
But these boats themselves, actually, they improved gradually, and the Missouri pilots, after they'd done it a few times, they kind of learned the river, and they were able to kind of manage the hazards, kind of like the Mississippi.
Yeah.
They learned. But the American Fur Company got a little paddle wheel boat all the way to Fort Union, which is in present-day North Dakota, in 1832. And company steamers went to the upper Missouri annually every spring after that, clear up there. And
the weather, of course, you couldn't really rely on anything, even as late as June, could you?
I mean, you hear stories about Cross, Wyoming, and those other places where the wind just tears you to pieces.
Yeah.
Anyway, in the 1860s, the steamboat became a real force in the economic development and the military occupation of this western country. So, and then gold was discovered in Montana and Idaho, and then steamboats churned upstream for these new railheads. The Army had posts in North Dakota, Montana. Fort Benton was the farthest they could get, and that was a boomtown 200 miles from the Rockies. So, but these Missouri steamboats were ingeniously conceived. They were shallow-hulled. Okay, they could float in shallow water and could work their way over sandbars. And the paddle boat was a tool, and it was cheaply constructed, propelled by a crude though powerful steam engine.
Really? And what year was that?
That was about the 1860s.
Really?
And so it was kind of had a powerful engine, but it was dangerous. They were kind of flimsy, but actually after the Civil War they got better. They started building them more stronger, and so
I'd hate to be on a boat in the middle of that river with a steam engine that you couldn't rely on.
Well, we'll get to that too.
Oh, okay.
A little bit.
All right.
But now picture this: you're on this boat. The noise of the engine exhaust is constant.
Yeah.
I'm just roaring.
Yeah.
Accompanied by the ceaseless vibration of the boat, because you got this thing it's not a smooth ride. Okay. And then you got the smell of the smoke and the engine oil. You got cabin passengers that were sleeping on corn husk mattresses.
Oh, what a fun trip.
Yeah. But some boats provided deck passengers with barrels of river water for drinking and washing.
Uh-huh.
But there were other vessels that simply offered the thirsty person a bucket tied to the end of a long rope.
I see.
So you throw your bucket in, and you better have a pretty good grip, or you may be in the river.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, it was seldom possible to go far on the Missouri without enduring some pretty bad delays. Every steamer carried 2 huge poles. Okay, now I'm going to try to explain how this works. Okay, the vessel gets stuck on a sandbar.
Gotcha.
Okay. Now, this process is called grasshoppering or sparring. So what they would do is they would put these poles down into the bottom of the sandbar.
Yeah.
And then they would hook it up to the steam engine capstan, and they would actually kind of lift the boat up off the sandbar.
With the use of the steam engine?
Yeah. They had a capstan, which is just turns, I guess.
Yeah.
You know. So now
how high, how hard, how fast? I mean,
well, sometimes it took a lot to get them off that sandbar.
Wow.
I mean, because they're stuck. Yeah. Now, if sparring or grasshoppering failed to conquer a bar at first, the captain might put part of the cargo ashore to lighten the boat, then reload once he was past the sandbar. And vessels that attempted to negotiate the upper reaches of the river in low water sometimes resorted to a method they called double tripping. Okay, they unloaded half the cargo at some point that I'm going to get to right here.
As soon as you find the right page.
They'd unload half of it along the shore, and then they'd go back and get the other half.
Really?
Because they had lightened the load enough to get over the sandbar.
Now, what kind of distance were they talking about? Maybe, what, half mile?
I guess just enough to think they're past the sandbar.
I see.
Okay, now when you refer to the Columbia, what about rapids?
Ooh.
Okay. Now here, what they would do is they would plant a dead man, which is bearing a big piece of timber in a ditch on shore. They would fasten a cable to it and force the boat to inch ahead by winding with this capstan again. Some type of, and I should have got a picture of that, but it turns and it pulls the boat up through the rapids.
Kind of like a pulley system.
Yeah.
Okay.
But roping could be dangerous because not as dangerous as a boiler explosion, which usually destroyed the whole boat.
Yeah.
Fires, steamboats went up like bonfires once they ignited. I mean, they're all made out of wood.
Why didn't they just get a bucket of water?
Yeah, well, who's going to do that? Or the snags, which were hidden, they could tear the bottom out. Now, in the course of coming up the rapid, if the cable snapped while a boat was struggling up the rapids, she'd be swept away into the rocks below, and that was gone.
Wow.
Okay. Now, the pilots and the captains occasionally took their wives to the Rockies during the Montana Gold Rush and the late 1860s, and the wives and children of many of the settlers rode the Missouri steamers as a matter of necessity. And actually, it says that these pioneer women were really treated like ladies. They were well taken care of. Now, I know we've got a few minutes here, but I'm going to tell you about a steamboat duel.
A duel?
Race.
You mean, a race?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So almost as soon as steamboats invaded the Big Muddy, they began to engage in races, partly because fast boats won the lucrative freight contracts, and also because Missouri pilots were, you could say, kind of a hot-blooded breed who could not bear to find themselves behind another boat. So usually the contest was brief and friendly. However, this one is not. And it usually ended after a few miles, and at times, however, a race became a no-holds-barred struggling, imperiling the steamboats and the passengers. In fact, one traveler who experienced such an all-out duel and never forgot it to his day, a guy named Samuel Hauser, he was 29 years old, prospector, heading for Montana, and he was destined to become actually an enormously wealthy rancher, banker, all this, and first governor in Montana. But anyway, the race that he was on launched a boat called the Sam Hauser, or not launched him, into Montana, took place in the upper Missouri in 1862. And there were 2 steamboats, the Amelia and the Spread Eagle. Okay, they cast off from their moorings near Fort Berthold in North Dakota, and in his account, Hauser, who was aboard the Amelia, noted that the passions for a showdown between the two boats had been building. Spread Eagle had departed St. Louis and 4 days ahead of Amelia, but the trailing boat had poured on the steam all the way upriver and had finally caught up the night before. So now, got shouts of challenge, and they're saying, okay, we can beat you, and they start yelling across the river at each other, and pretty soon one pulls ahead and they yell at the other one just like you normally would. Well, there came a point where I'm trying to find the good part.
Hurry.
Okay. They actually, one of the boats rammed the other one.
Wow.
And was caught in the side of this other boat, and then the one pilot pulled out a pistol and was going to shoot the other pilot, but some of the crew grabbed him, didn't let him shoot the other pilot. Anyway, the race continued, and one beat the other finally. And
you've got some wild river tales.
Oh yeah. Well,
what is that called right there? Oh, the River Men.
The River Men.
There
yes.
you go.
Yeah.
Dr. History, as always. I hate to rush you, but you're late.
No problem.
And thank you for being here. What are we going to talk about next week?
I don't know. I might continue with stuff on the river.
What about the Snake River?
Actually, I went into a used bookstore, and I found a great book about the Snake River.
Oh, good. Let's talk about that.
So we may do
okay.
that.
Don't forget Dr. History every Tuesday at 10:07 right here on Zebeth Ranch. And don't forget another segment that we're very proud of, Cassia County School Days on Thursdays right here on Zebeth Ranch starting at 10:10 on Thursdays. Brought to you by A Child's World at 1308 Overland and Burley with all the baby furniture, baby clothing, the cribs, the top-rated #1 car seat by Chico, all of this and more at A Child's World. And also the other sponsor, Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland Avenue, Suite E in Burley. The number to call for outpatient surgery information, 677-8888. 677-8888, Ambulatory Surgery Center, and A Child's World, bringing you School Days in Cassia County on Thursdays at 10:10. Once again, our thanks to my dear friend, Dr. History. We'll talk to him again next Tuesday. But right now, we're going to send it back over to our main studios. We'll be back in 3 minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Thank you and welcome back. And a very interesting segment with Dr. History, as always, right here on Zeb at the Ranch. Another gentleman that I'm very, very proud to have on my program whenever he has the time, and that's Representative Fred Wood. And we're going to be talking a lot about what our politicians have been doing during the summer months with the various committees that they're on, etc. Good morning to Fred Wood. How are you, sir?
Good, Zeb. Good morning to you, and how are things?
Absolutely perfect in a beautiful fall day. We're going to have a couple of these in a row up until Friday, and then I guess the roof's going to fall in. But a lot of people don't realize that you're not really ever on vacation. There's a lot of committee work during the course of the summer in preparation of garnering information for the next legislative session. Give us a little insight as to what's going on during the summer months.
Happy to do that, Zeb. I'll just give you 7 or 8 highlights here, and then we'll go down the road and you can talk about whichever ones we want to talk about. Most of the activity has been with formal interim committees or working groups put together by the Speaker and the Pro Tem, or there's a couple going on out there that are just grassroots efforts. I think one to really pay attention to is there's an interim committee of which the Speaker sits on that is trying to figure out a different funding method for education. At this point in time, we're funding it on a classroom unit and based on attendance. Most states have gotten away from that. I think Idaho's going to try a different methodology.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on 3 interim committees. There's an interim committee for campaign finance reform. As a matter of fact, we're going to have a meeting in Boise tomorrow. That's an ongoing effort. There's an interim committee on employee group health insurance. We have now an unsustainable model, Zeb, Annual increases are 8 and 10% a year.
Wow.
The state can no longer afford that kind of year-over-year increase. The Millennium Fund Committee is meeting periodically to try to figure out what to do with the ever-increasing amounts of revenue coming in, basically interest payments on the endowment that we've been securing. There's a significant grassroots efforts going on to try to bring another constitutional amendment under the so-called, quotes, Marcy's Law, end quotes. That's a victims' rights issue. They're trying to put some things in the Constitution to further increase victims' rights. So there are also a couple of efforts going on, and I know the least about these, with respect to the criminal justice system and foster care, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the legislature literally is serving on at least one, and quite frankly, it's keeping a bunch of us busy.
You know, I've always wanted to ask you this, and I'm saying this somewhat facetiously, but of course you as Representative Fred Wood, and then you're standing in the halls of the House and you yell out, "Mr. Speaker!" Have you ever wanted to say, "Hey, Scott, listen to me"?
You know, the good thing is that I have an opportunity to do that a lot of other times. Because he lives in Oakley, I know where he lives. We talk frequently, and yes, I do get to say, "Now, damn it, Scott, I know you're in leadership, and I know that you've got everybody else pounding on you just like I am. But sit and pay attention to Fred Wood for a minute." And thank goodness he always does. But leadership is whipsawed so bad, I pity those guys, quite frankly, in most days.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit, as you presented them a moment ago, education system, the financing of the education system. What's wrong with the old way of doing it, that it's not working or not fitting in properly, that you need to revamp it, and where would you go to get the money?
And again, I'm not sitting on that committee. I've got my own 3 committees, so I just pick up what I'm hearing. But here's the impetus for change. At this point in time, the school districts are funded on what's called a classroom unit, and that's based on attendance at 2 specific days during the year, or 1 specific day during a semester, or whatever. And if your attendance happens to be down, then you've got a problem. The other thing is that a lot of the rural counties and their districts, with the school districts within those rural counties, are actually losing population, and they're not standing, or they're not even maintaining their population. The demographics are changing. The population is growing older. There's less children, et cetera, et cetera. So funding is really becoming skewed. So the issue is how do we actually start funding school districts in a manner that that funding is not skewed based upon demographics, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really hard because even the current program causes some real problems. And so they're trying to look at a better program principally based on enrollment rather than attendance. In other words, who have you enrolled and who's supposed to be there, as opposed to ones that, you might pick an attendance day that turns out to be a bad day and you've got a bunch of people gone.
Absolutely. I want to get into, if I could, Fred, healthcare and health insurance. And right now we're seeing, I think, President Trump take the bull by the horn, so to speak, and be a leader on this issue and basically tell both the Republicans and the Democrats, you better get to work because we're going to do it this way. And it looks like he's got some good ideas. How does that trickle down on a new health insurance bill to Idaho?
That is really questionable and up in the air right now for this particular reason. His executive order just laid laid out an outline. The devil is going to be in the details of the rules and regulations that are promulgated around that. And let me give you an example. He proposed having associations where small businesses and different entities can get together under an umbrella of an association and therefore become a large group, like a large employer, and then go along and try and get the benefits of a large insurance pool. Well, the problem is that all of the state laws are based upon the fact that, yes, you can have an association. As a matter of fact, Idaho's got them now with respect to the school districts. There's about 85 school districts that belong to the Education Association. But the problem is that every single one of those districts is not in a large pool. They're all rated on their own small pool, and the employers. So if you got 25 or 30 small businesses together, each of those small businesses is going to be rated on their employees. They're not all going to be put in a big pool.
Mm-hmm.
So if the federal law doesn't come along and set aside all of the state insurance regulations associated with that, okay, in other words, federal law trumping state law, then that's really not going to work, because let's presume that there are two small businesses, and one small business really doesn't want its people to smoke. They go out, they have programs to prevent the people from smoking, they have obesity programs, they have all kinds of education on eating correctly, etc., and they're a good, healthy small business. The other small business doesn't care about smokers, they don't care about being overweight, they don't care about food, they don't care about anything, and they have a fairly sick population of employees, etc. Well, if you put those two together, then the healthy population is going to have to pay for the sick population, at least to a certain extent.
Right.
And that's what's always been the bugaboo. So we don't know. I spoke to Dean Cameron about this at length on a couple of occasions since the president has signed his executive order. And I applaud the president for trying to do something and get the ball off zero, for goodness sakes. I mean, everybody's got to give somebody who's willing to do that credit. But the devil is going to be, Zeb, in the details that come out in the next 6 to 9 months.
Absolutely. What about, though, the fact that there is more talk about a healthcare program, if you will, that would stimulate the competition between the companies and make it better for the consumers to be able to pick and choose a better program for their families? I like the word competition coming back into the healthcare business.
There's precious little competition in healthcare. Well, essentially there's none, to be perfectly honest with you. That it's harder to get competition in your geographically sparsely populated areas, because in a lot of Idaho, Zeb, we don't even have enough providers. If everybody was working hard to take care of the population. Mm-hmm. Now that's not true in the Treasure Valley. There's competition there, but there's precious little, and anything that we can do to increase competition in healthcare is a good thing.
One of the other issues that you and I have talked about in the past in concerns to healthcare, of course, Medicaid, Medicare, Medicaid, of course, really being a fly in the milk. Are there any changes or outlooks for changes on that program?
None that I'm aware of. As you're aware, the executive order didn't cover that at all, because that's in law, and so the executive order never changed anything about that, or at least I've not seen the executive order, but in all of the analysis that I have read, there's not any change in the Medicaid program. So, I don't you're going to have a Congress pass a law to make changes there.
Okay. Now, moving to some other subjects in the time we have left here this morning, what about criminal justice reform or the committee studying criminal justice? What basically issues are they looking at or adoption of new changes? What's going on there?
Well, the one that I'm familiar with is foster care. And foster care in Idaho has been a mess for a long, long time. Now, we did pass some legislation that helped last year. They are working on more legislation. I think it's principally designed to try to bring significant efficiency to that program so that when decisions have to be made, the court system will be freed up to make those decisions on behalf of the child. I think they're looking at trying to make sure that decisions are going to be made on behalf of the child and not made on behalf of some adult who has nefarious motives for either wanting the child or not wanting the child or whatever. So I think it's going to take, that's the 100,000-foot level, Zeb. And again, I've got my plate full of all of the other things. I've not been paying that much of attention. Nobody's come up with any bills yet, okay? Nobody's drafted any bills. So there's no legislation out there that one can look at and say, oh, okay, that's exactly what they've been doing. At this stage in time, it's all still formulating the principles that will go into legislation. Then in the next 2 months, they'll be designing that legislation. But my understanding is that that's going to be the push in foster care.
Okay. Now, in regards to campaign finance reform, what are the problems? What are the issues? What are the needs?
Well, all you have to do is look at the last election cycle, and the problems are pretty obvious. What you really want to do, and what the Supreme Court has said, the U.S. Supreme Court, and I think they're correct, it's not the amount of money that's actually in the political system. It's the ability to hide that money and the ability to hide the use of that money. That's the problem. So if somebody's trying to run for or against anybody in the legislature, any constitutional office, any county commissioner, or anybody else, what you really want to know is, one, the amount of money that is being spent, two, where that money came from, and what that money is being used for. So if you've got, you name your position, and all of a sudden you've got $500,000 or $1 million coming from out of state going directly into a candidate or directly opposed to a candidate, then it would be very important to know exactly when that money came in, exactly how much money that is, and what they're doing with that money.
Mm-hmm.
And so the whole thing is about transparency and about timeliness in reporting money that is brought into the system and how it's circulated through the system. And right now there's so many holes in our campaign finance laws, Zeb. People can wait until the very end. They can spend money at the very end. Nobody knows about it until 30 days after the election's over with. If there's nefarious activity that's going on and people are actually being deceitful with respect to campaign for or against any particular candidate, there's no way of finding out about it now.
Right.
We need to fix that so that people understand exactly where the money is being spent in a timely manner of who it's being spent for and why.
Real quick, Fred, I've only got about 4 or 5 minutes left at the most in this segment. If you'd give my audience an explanation about Marsy's Law and victim rights that's coming up in front of the legislative session.
Sure. The state of Idaho passed it's Article 1, Section 22 of the Idaho Constitution, and for the first time we had constitutional victims' rights. If you remember, the perpetrators or the accused have all kinds of constitutional rights. Well, victims have never had any constitutional rights. And when legislation was designed to put in rights for victims, the courts always said, well, constitutional rights prevail over statutory rights, so therefore victims have no constitutional rights. Well, in 1993, I believe it was, Idaho put in some. Marcy's Law is simply trying to increase those victims' rights and bolster the current constitutional provision, which is Article 1, Section 22. Now, Senate Joint Resolution 103 last year passed the Senate almost unanimously, but it didn't pass the House. It got killed in committee. And quite frankly, I agree with that for that particular bill. Now, Zeb, you and I are for victims' rights and constitutional victims' rights, and I can tell you right now that Fred Wood is too. The problem is that the way that was structured last year, some estimates, and according to some members of the court, that would have cost the state of Idaho $10 million to institute that program because it was poorly designed and it placed a tremendous burden on the counties, and most of our rural counties can't afford that kind of money coming in. So what we've got to do is we've got to craft a constitutional provision that increases victims' rights because, quite frankly, they don't have enough constitutional rights as it stands now.
Absolutely.
The question is formatting it where the state of Idaho can afford it and pay for it.
Absolutely. Representative Fred Wood, he's been a friend of this program for a long time, and we certainly appreciate his time and efforts at the legislative session and during the course of the year, talking about what's going on in Idaho politics. Representative Wood, God bless you, man. Thanks for being on the show this morning.
Thanks, Zeb, and God bless all your listeners.
Thank you, sir. Always appreciate having him on my program. And as I look at the little clock on the wall, I'm running late again on my weather forecast. And the weather brought to you this hour by Scarrows Meats. 331 North Road, Jerome. The number to call, 324-7657. Or you can go to their website, scarrowsmeats.com, and see all the delicious meats they have in their retail department. Absolutely delicious. Don Scarrow and the crew at Scarrows Meats in Jerome. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
We're going to be warm for the next couple of days. I am not complaining about that. However, there is one day this week we're not going to like. Here's your weather for Zeb at the Ranch. Looking at sunny skies for today. High of 71. Tonight, clear skies, low of 39. Tomorrow, sunny and 71 with an overnight low of 40. Pretty much the same for Thursday. Sunny and 74 with an overnight low of 42 under partly cloudy skies. However, Friday going to be the game changer. Looks like 40% chance of rain showers are in the forecast. Winds are going to be picking up, high of 53. And then for Saturday, partly to mostly sunny skies, high of 54. That's your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you, Gina, and I urge you to become familiar with our friends at Scarrows Meats. Oh, my goodness, all the delicious bratwurst and bacon, all the way to hams and sausages. It's just fantastic. Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. The number to call, 324-7657. They are changing the way we eat one delicious bite at a time. Scarrows Meats. Holy cow, I've also got to remind you real quick about our friends at Autumn Haven Assisted Living Center. As I've been telling you, they're located at 924 Christian Way in Rupert. And the number to call, the number to remember, 436-3200. And they want to make sure that you stop by, visit, take a tour, find out more about them. They make every effort to make Autumn Haven the best place. And they're urging you and your loved ones and the residents of Autumn Haven are urging you to bring the kids by on Trick or Treat. Yep, the residents would be very excited to see your children for Trick or Treat on Halloween. Don't forget Autumn Haven Assisted Living Center, 924 Christian Way in Rupert. They're small compared to some, but with a bigger heart than most. Tomorrow on the program, we've got some great guests coming on. Dave Bego from Indianapolis, Indiana. Seth Crosby's going to be on the air. We're going to have a great visit with him. And then it's also the Idaho Fish and Game Report with Kelton Hatch tomorrow morning on Zeb at the Ranch. So lots of good things happening on Wednesday. I want to thank our major sponsor, and that's, of course, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. As I've been stating, a big fall tire sale at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, where doing the right thing matters. They really care. They really provide the best in service, and they want you to drive safely. A lot of their tires on sale right now, like the Eclipse for your passenger cars, premium traction, superior ride quality, on sale. Stop in, check out all the great tire buys, and of course, don't forget about the brake service and the front end alignments, the shocks and the struts, the batteries, all of this with the best of service from Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. The best, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Don't forget Lunch Bunch coming up on Thursday at Denny's Restaurant in Burley, 611 North Overland, America's Diner. As I said, we're going to be thanking again Walmart, Smith's Food, Handsome Mortuary, Doug Martin, Denny's, all the gift certificates. We invite you to come by. Bring your friends and neighbors. We always have a good time, starting at 11:30 on Thursday this week. Zeb's Lunch Bunch at America's Diner, Denny's Restaurant. That's going to wrap it up for today and put it back in the box, and we're going to send it back over to our main studios in just a moment. Want to urge you to tune in tomorrow morning at 8:06, Zeb at the Ranch on K-Bar, 12:30 a.m., and then streaming live on the internet, zebbell.com. And remember our famous words, the way things were are the way things ought to be. God bless you and your family. Wheels, good job, buddy. Have a good day. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:06.